Hello and welcome to Defense Diaries. I am your host, Bob Mata, and this is my beautiful and brilliant co-host, Allie. What's up, girl?
Hey, babe. Hey, y'all. And it is Thursday, May 16th, and we just got through with one hell of a day.
Man,
Reed trial.
I'm telling, like, I was thinking about this, and like, if I could have cherry picked a day to have Mark Bederow on, I couldn't have gotten a better day. I mean, you know, dumb luck, whatever you want to call it. I'm sitting there watching this and I'm thinking, oh my God, Mark's going to be with us tonight. We're just going to all rage and it's just going to be glorious. So
I just want everyone to know, Bob is sitting in his yoga chair. I have taken away my yoga chair because last time people wanted to know if I was bebopping to music instead of listening to Mr. Mark Bederow. But as Bob gets excited, there's no telling that he might not bounce too. And I'm so used to being able to bounce. I feel weird right now, but yeah, today, perfect day for
sacrifice. What a sacrifice. All right. So
I did that for you.
Yeah. Today's a little bit like, if you're an old head, today feels like that old Lou Gehrig speech when he's in Yankee Stadium. You know, he's like, today, I am the luckiest, that thing. So I'm super excited to have Mark Bederow on with us. He'll probably hate that because he's a Sox fan. Of course not. He's a New York guy. So it's a question of whether he's Yanks or Mets. We'll find out right now. What's up, Mark?
It's not questionable. It's Red Sox. Come on.
The Sox, baby.
No,
so thank you so much for joining us, brother. We really appreciate it. It's been like 10 days since the last time you were over here. I hit you up. I figured we were due. And what a day. What a day.
Yeah. It's been an incredible day. And by the way, I would say bounce away. Who cares? You. Where do you even begin with this?
I think we start like let's start with today and we'll work our way backward.
Well, he means where with today? There was so much. I'd say just because it's still just really got me worked up that we start with the worst witness for the prosecution thus far, the ME.
And the best for the defense.
I think
she was like, I love Scordi-Bello in the first trial, and I love her even more now. I thought, the way Brennan handled her. What was your take?
Well, I think they got smoked out of their cave in the first instance to call her. I don't think they had any intent to call her. They're sensitive. They're flailing. They're panicking. That sensitivity can relate to Proctor, some other people. So, what if we don't call an ME and they do, and she helps them? So maybe what I'll try to do is deflate the balloon, so to speak. But he certainly didn't deflate the balloon. He made it worse. Once again, on his redirect, always the redirects with this guy. But if you call a medical examiner as a prosecutor in a murder case, in 99.9% of murder cases, that's a strong witness. It's very simple. It's very formulaic. We have a death. We have a cause of death. We have a manner of death. These are the injuries. It is what it is. I'm just a scientist. No harm, no foul.
Right.
Next witness. And instead, the prosecution calls a witness who says, I don't know what the manner of death is. I can't even call it a homicide, let alone what led to it. And by the end of the time that she got off the stand, she basically said, I saw no evidence that I saw that was indicative of any kind of pedestrian vehicle impact. I saw no evidence of frostbite, which one might expect, and you'll hear later from another expert about hypothermia. You saw no evidence that, well, if he smashed the back of his head, all those injuries on his face could not have been caused by that. But those injuries are consistent with blunt trauma, which could include punch, kick, all those sort of things. I saw the injuries on his arms. Well, I can't really tell you what those are, but they're not really consistent with a car accident. Is it possible that he was immediately incapacitated upon being hit? Yes, that fits with the defense. And at the end of the day,
now that time might not matter once we get to
and then when she says, after all this, I can't give you, a manner of death, that's devastating, obviously, when the prosecution's own medical examiner can't do that.
But he figured out a way to make it worse.
He figured out a way to make it worse. If you think that can't be bad enough, this gets up. It says, I'll show them. What I'll do is redirect and say, let's find out what you were aware of at the time that you made that, diagnosis, if that's even the right word. That's probably not even the right word.
But
and
we get you.
Hit him and this and that. And, well, yeah, I kind of knew about that. And all it took was, Alessi within 5 minutes on cross. And yet your opinion is your opinion. Yep. Don't know.
I mean, I literally thought Brennan forgot what side of the table he was on. He starts the questioning, and at first I'm thinking he anticipates her answers to be like, no, I didn't know that. But then as she starts answering yes, and he's like, but I mean, before you wrote the 90 days and you wrote the death certificate, yes. Then he just keeps going and keeps going. And Bob and I are like, he's fucking impeaching his own witness.
Which is impermissible, but even beyond that, I mean, the delicious irony was it's impermissible to do that. The judge was giving him a green license to lead with all kinds of improper stuff. But all she was doing was basically saying, you want to run into that brick wall without a helmet head first? Be my guest. And he did. And, why does he continuously do this, witness after witness? Some people think, well, maybe because he's not used to being a prosecutor. Okay, that's kind of a stupid answer, though. You are a prosecutor, okay? You're getting $250,000 of tax money to do it right because Morrissey doesn't believe that anyone in his office can or will. So if I'm paying you that money, you might want to do it right. And he just keeps doing it and making a mess and making a mess. And it's delicious, isn't it?
Oh, God, it was so delicious. Like while it was happening, I'm sitting there racking my brain. I'm like, what in the hell? I'm like, is he, I was trying to think of any rationale as to why he was doing what he was doing, because Allie and I both predicted. I'm like, as far as I'm concerned, Bob just needs to get up and ask one question on recross, which he ended with. And it was like almost exactly what we said. But I'm saying, like, okay, well, he's putting somebody else on, this neuroscientist, whoever it is.
Who was credited within 5 minutes across before they ever showed up.
Exactly. Yep. And I'm like, is he trying to discredit his own ME so that witness has some kind of credibility in terms of what they're going to say? Because that was the only thing that I could think of as to what he was doing. I mean, when she kept answering, yeah, I knew that. Yeah, I was like, this is amazing. It was the greatest example of turning a state witness into a defense witness that I can remember in recent memory, man. It was unbelievable.
No, it was great. And, it's not that surprising in the sense, this is something I've always believed. Am I biased? Sure. But the skill level of the defense team and the prosecution team, they're at different levels. Okay. Brennan is a bada beep, bada boop kind of guy. He's a good lawyer, but he's used to like that kind of thing. And this defense team is a little more sophisticated, a little more polished,
methodical,
more cerebral, a little more methodical. and he's fighting a fight all by himself, and he's getting smothered, okay? And he's getting clobbered.
What do you mean, Mark? He's got Lally.
He does have Lally, but you know what else you saw today? You saw him get flailing. You saw him on his redirect related to the cross about whether there was hypothermia and frostbite and whatever. Sometimes the irony is too thick to even recognize, but here's a guy a lot of people have criticized for being a mob lawyer, okay, which I don't care.
Right.
Nobody cares. I mean, we've all represented some bad people. It is what it is.
Truth.
His claim to fame is, I'm the Whitey Bulger guy, right? And he's getting clobbered and he's flailing around, and on redirect, he starts trying to deal with the no frostbite or all of this with, there's no evidence that he was put in a freezer. Okay. I mean, he went full Goodfellas. He went full on Goodfellas.
Was that him trying to imply? We took it that he was trying to imply that that's what the defense was trying to imply.
I don't think so. I think his brain got warped, panicked, the same way a couple days ago he turned Nicholas Guarino into Nicholas, Gianturco, who was an corrupt FBI agent that he cross-examined. His brain works in like corrupt cases that he worked in the past. And when he gets flustered, and he just literally got fully pantsed with this witness. He made the choice to call her. I get it. But in doing so, he made the tactical decision to let the defense cross the witness, which maybe it's less important for an expert. But I mean, how anyone who supports the prosecution, first of all, you should support the truth and just go where the evidence takes you.
Thank you.
But for these people who support the prosecution, there's many of them online. How do they walk out of there feeling good when the medical examiner basically says, I have no freaking clue what happened here, and I'm the scientist. I'm smarter than all of you. Okay, I know things you don't know. I do this for a living. I analyzed John O'Keefe's body. I was pumped by the state police with all this prejudicial information, and in spite of that, I can't tell you that this was even a homicide. That is per se reasonable. Huge. Per se reasonable doubt. They can't even tell the jury convincingly that this was a homicide as opposed to an accident. Let alone,
to me, that's an automatic death knell to the case. Like, and I was talking about it on our live today when that was coming out, when she came back with Undetermined as an ME. I mean, in New Orleans, NOPD they refuse to investigate anything if the ME comes back with Undetermined, which are like, if you think about that, you're like, well, how are you ever going to figure out if it was nefarious, if there was foul play, if the cops aren't going to do anything when the ME comes with an undetermined determination? It's crazy to me.
So I would flip that on its head. I don't think that's a New Orleans' unique thing. I think New Orleans is in accordance with most common sense prosecutors and citizens who expect prosecutors to act rationally. I would suggest that in Norfolk County, they're in the upside down. What people would possibly bring a murder case when their own not a medical examiner, their state employee who does all of their autopsies told them, even after being kind of harassed by the state police, which the jury doesn't even
know yet.
Doesn't even know. That's coming if they call Proctor, really. The whack job number 2.
Oh, man.
Whack job number 2. Karen is job number 1.
Right.
The idea that they would even bring this case when they can't even get a determination of not a murder, not a manslaughter, but just a basic homicide, which of course lawyers understand. Homicide is a unbiased scientific word. It just means that one human caused the death of another. That can be legal. It can be justifiable. It may not even be criminal.
Right.
The medical examiner would not even tell them that based on everything I saw scientifically, based on everything you told me, including I hit him, all that stuff, I'm not comfortable even telling you, based on what I'm looking at scientifically, that this was a homicide. And for them to bring that case, and we haven't even gotten into all the other problems they have.
Right.
it's just disgraceful.
It's unbelievable. And when you have this
Andy.
situation with a tail light, like when he asked the question about did she know about the cracked or destroyed tail light, she said yes.
And that's what he ended on.
And I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, this is unbelievable.
The best part is this. He asked a question about, well, are you aware that there were, several pieces or 45 pieces of taillight recovered? First of all, that's a major fact in contention. Okay. This judge to allow that, that is also disgraceful. I mean, the reality is that's a contested fact. And, whether she was told that and whether she analyzed that, I guess is fair game. But the way that he asked the question to just imply that as a matter of fact, that all of this was done, this evidence was recovered, all of these statements were made, in hindsight, as I said earlier, it's kind of delicious because you accept all of these facts. And then she looks at him and on recross says, doesn't change my opinion.
All right. So I hate to shift gears, but there's a couple things because I could go on forever about how he destroyed the case just with all of that. But what the hell happened with the log? It was something he didn't come back to, and I don't know if they're going to have an opportunity to revisit it again. But it seemed to us that the witness said that there were two people who were there, and that she looked at the piece of paper and gave the first and last name of the same person. Am I crazy? Was Proctor one of the people in there and just not on the log?
So clearly, based upon the photograph that was admitted into evidence, anyone who's been following this case enough, no, that was Michael Proctor, clearly.
100%. I'm in a crazy world, or that's Proctor?
No, that's an indisputable fact. The other guy was this guy, Connor Keefe.
Right.
That's an indisputable fact. And the jury saw Connor Keefe 2 or 3 days ago, whatever it was. That's an indisputable fact. And of course, the other weird indisputable fact is, well, this guy Keefe testified, I went there alone.
Right.
Hey, okay. I forgot about that.
Clearly not true.
Holy fuck, that's huge.
I don't know. I mean,
no,
I don't know. I mean, could it be it's a long time ago? It wasn't a big deal. I don't know. I mean, why would he make that up? Why do you hide that? But then you start looking into it deeper and you say, if you look at the picture, Proctor was wearing scrubs on his feet. The Keefe guy was wearing his regular, standard issue brown MSP shoes. And my first question is like, why is that? If they're both at the autopsy, why are they not both properly dressed for, an autopsy? Did he show up late? I don't know what any of this means. And you start thinking, are they trying to was this part of the effort to shield the jury from knowing about Proctor? They didn't know the defense had the picture. I don't know. So I'm kind of agnostic about what any of this really means. But what it definitely means that this guy Keefe was not reliable. He was not credible on that fact. But I don't know beyond that, at least for now. What's
your take on the log, though? Because didn't it seem like that only somebody signed in with both his first name and his last name?
Well, that's interesting. So if they signed in on the log as like Trooper Connor and Trooper Keefe, which is in fact one person, then yeah, that's ridiculous. No one would do that. Okay. A 7-year-old wouldn't do that. They understand how to sign their name. So if that happened in a way that was designed to deceive the public who was there, and then it turns out that the other guy there was Michael Proctor and they're trying to hide something, that's odd. The only thing or caveat I would say to that is on January 30th, I mean, way back when, why would they have to hide Proctor's presence? That I'm not sure that, as corrupt as he is, as much as a dirtbag as he is, he is a grade A scumbag. We know that. But what is there to gain from literally on January 30th of 2022, however corrupt he is, it makes perfect sense that he would,
the lead investigator would be there anyway.
Not like it. But on the other hand, to your point, why can't they sign in properly? I don't know. And, look, maybe the jury will say there's something sketchy here. So
right. I mean, even if it's not, it can definitely throw a jury's going to find. Yeah. And then the other thing, there were two other things that I thought I wanted him to touch on, him being Alessi in redirect. One was this whole on redirect. Brennan said you were only looking for an injury because that's how front end collisions, you look for that injury. So I would have asked, you knew it was a rear injury when you were considering this case.
Right.
Yes. Yet you testified on direct knowing that you were looking for injuries such as the ones to the legs. I think that would have been worthy of coming back to. And the second one was,
I agree
that because he did make a couple of points, 3 things, which were ridiculous because he was acting like she wasn't told something they did not know yet. The location data, the battery, and the steps or something that she could have, and correct me if I'm wrong, if she had wanted to, amended it or reopened the case after learning that information and changed it to homicide had she wanted to. If that's accurate, I would have asked him that question as well on recross.
Yeah, I know. I agree. But I mean, at the bottom line is at the end of the day, after all the nonsense that Brennan put out and he was trying to sum up this witness, health data. I mean, did you consider the health data? I mean, give me a fucking break. I mean, that was
so insane.
I mean, you just lost your mind. But what Alessi did in like 5 minutes was like, are you changing anything? She said no.
Right.
And Brennan has this comical habit of emphasizing the warts in his case on recross because of his crappy redirect. And he's done it with Jen McCabe. He's done it with the cell phone people. He's done it with this witness today. I mean, he just continues to do it. And he's flailing around. And today he looked a little disjointed, a little discombobulated, maybe, perhaps.
Well, I mean, he's sitting there listening to Bob Alessi go through medical terminology that most of us as attorneys, like Brennan's just sitting there and his like gears are spinning and like smoke's coming out of his ears. He's like, I'm not going to be able to match any of that on redirect. And the thing that you see over and over and over with Brennan is all he does on his redirects is repukes up his direct.
Right. He flails. But this is why he's outgunned, and this is almost a hopeless exercise, okay? Bob Alessi is the best cross-examiner of an expert you're ever going to come across in your life, okay?
He's so good.
First of all, he's just like, top-level nerd. I mean, he is brilliant.
Amazing.
He is a pharmacist. He has an expert's mind, and he's never going to be outsmarted, outworked, out chess matched. And he's methodical. He's just logical, and he's just perfect for experts. And he's 1,000 times better at this than Brennan is. And then the other problem is by having someone like Bob able to do all of that, that frees up Alan to do the blood and guts, the street people, and do what he does at his level. And Brennan is just outgunned, overmatched, and overwhelmed. That's the bottom line. Okay. This team is better than him. It's just 100%. The reality. Yeah. I mean, look, I'd like to say I would have been a part of that, but I'm not. But the reality is,
you were so close.
Well, whatever. The point is, they are just so far beyond what this one guy is. And he's just outgunned in terms of charisma. He's outgunned in terms of intellect. He's outgunned in terms of scientific knowledge. And this is what happens, okay? The longer the trial goes on and these people get in their groove, they divide up their work, they stay focused, they're a team, they're just going to smother him. And they are.
They are. They really are. It's like a boa constrictor, just like squeezing them to death. And it's that thing where, I mean, his bread and butter, he being Brennan, is really a defense attorney. And while any of us that litigate know that the real craftsmanship comes with being able to cross-examine somebody really effectively, but there is an art to being able to effectively direct. And he doesn't have that. He does not have that skill because like prosecutors that do it over and over and over, there is a flow to it. You know what I'm saying? And he just does not have the ability to do it. You know, he's trying to change his personality. He's trying to be the buttoned up guy with the muted tie and shirt and it's American flag, your typical prosecutor thing. And he just can't play the role, but beyond that, he doesn't have the experience to effectively direct. And when we're going to see just the diametric opposite of that is when Bob Alessi is going to start direct examining our witnesses. And it's going to be like palpable. You're going to see such a vast difference in terms of what he's going to be able to do with Wolf and Rensselaer is going to be spectacular.
It is. And not only is Brennan, I mean, look, he was a prosecutor 100 years ago, obviously long past, but not only is he a defense attorney, but he's a certain type of defense attorney, which is not going to help him. Okay. Given the fact that he dealt with like organized crime and all that stuff. And again, there's no shame in that, but he's the kind of guy who is used to cross-examining cops. Okay. And there's a tone, this, I know this, I'll do this. You can be more aggressive with cops. You don't have to be emotional. You don't have to be charismatic. It's kind of a different game than sympathetic people, or sometimes you just have to know when to dial it down. You saw the way he handled the ARCA people. It was embarrassing. It was silly. He just doesn't have the charisma. He doesn't seem to be able to change tone and kind of modulate and relate to people. He's used to just all in, super aggressive, as if everyone's a corrupt FBI agent going after, innocent Whitey Bulger, which is not the case. That's not what this case is, right? So screaming at Dr. Wolf about deleting text messages isn't going to get it done. Okay,
not even in front of a jury.
Oh, not even in front of a jury. Screaming at Dr. Russell, who has, really impressive credentials, that she's kind of a, quirky, charismatic, non-traditional doctor, right? She's not, right. But she's charismatic in her own way and really credentialed and has her opinions, and they're really, well-founded with her experience and education. Like, coming after her is not the way. And this guy just has no modulation, no charisma, and he's the prosecutor, and you can't do that. You have to wear the white hat.
Right.
And he's not the white hat guy. He's the guy.
That guy.
You saw at the end of the day today, who is fully comfortable with sandbagging the defense mid-trial.
Gaslighting the judge.
This is the most gaslighting. I've told you this before. He is a master gaslighter. He stood up today defending his position when the jury left, talking about the defense discovery violations as he's moving to change the most material evidence in the middle of trial after the defense has cross-examined critical witnesses based on the so-called faulty data he gave them.
It's insane. And
is a dirtbag, okay?
Yeah.
He is an embarrassment to the profession of prosecutor, and he makes Michael Morrissey deserve everything he gets, and Brennan deserves everything he gets, given the outcome of this case. I mean, he is just making a mockery of what a fair trial is. And for him to get up and say that, oh, I just got this report, it's fine, I'm allowed to do this, it's not my fault, it's not a discovery violation, so I'm allowed to do this mid-trial. No, you're not, buddy. No,
you're not.
But Mark, remember, clocks are different.
Clocks are different. And, prosecutors aren't allowed to, changing your theory from first trial to the second trial is an issue. And now you've got first trial. It started at 12:45 is when she was struck. 12:45. Now we're in trial 2. I believe the time changed in trial 1. Now we're in trial 2, and it's changing again and now again. And when does the judge say, you know what? You guys have no idea when and how this man died. This is a mockery.
So at the first trial, it was 12:45 because of Jen McCabe, because that's what Jen McCabe said. Then they hire these experts who tell you it's 12:31. And apparently until May 11th, which was 4 days ago, that was their theory. It's now like 12:32. You've heard that. I mean, they even admitted, well, I had to synchronize it with Whiffen after he testified. I mean, what the hell are we doing here? They're on their third theory of the timeline. The goalposts keep moving depending on where the evidence goes and what takes them. And you have a judge who basically has no grave concerns, right?
No,
but
not even a regular concern.
Zero.
But a concern. Like I'd be at this point, I'd be happy with just a concern.
She would have these defense attorneys disbarred
or
doing all kinds of terrible things and doesn't have a goddamn concern that the prosecution has moved the goalpost depending on whatever chameleon shape, the evidence takes on any given day, given their faulty case, to allow them to do whatever they want to do. And for these people mid-trial with a straight face to say, we're giving you notice after Whiffen has testified, after you opened on this, after you prepared for months on this theory, this is insanity that this judge would not literally look at them in the face and say, absolutely not. On top of that, to say, what the hell are you doing? What
Right.
What are you doing?
Say whatever you want to just change the evidence however you want to convict someone, not in my courtroom.
I will tell you this. They did make a record today. It needs to be stronger. It needs to be, they need to tell the judge that if you do this, we're going to move for an immediate mistrial and we're going to make a record. We're going to make a public record. And here's what it's going to be. And also we're going to make a record on the fact that this mistrial is going to be caused by the misconduct of the prosecution. There's no manifest necessity. There isn't going to be another trial. And you need to judge, put on your judge pants and say, I'm not going to allow this. Okay. He doesn't want to have grave concerns and all that and accuse Brennan of any kind of misconduct. That's fine. But for her to even entertain the possibility after they cross-examined the prosecution expert with specific theories, thoughts, and strategies on the timeline and emphasize that for the jury, and then this guy submits a report saying, well, I have to sync it to Whiffen, so I'm going to move it 30 seconds mid-trial and say that's okay, and Brennan say that's not a discovery violation. There's nothing.
We didn't change anything. We didn't change anything.
This guy is just disgraceful to do this with a straight face because he is a defense attorney. Don't forget that. He's not in the DA's office. He's just taking their $250,000 from the taxpayers. But when this is over, he's supposed to go back to being a defense attorney and look at the arguments that he's making. Okay. The fact that he even suggests that this is fair tells you this guy has no moral compass at all. Okay. This is a freaking game to him. Okay. It's not a fair trial. This is about a game and a win, and it's disgraceful.
And it's a money grab, like flat out. It's a money grab. It's a quarter, $750,000, whatever. What is he getting? 275. And is that like, he's still able to bill above and beyond that, I believe. I mean, it's a huge money grab for him.
They should demand a refund.
Well, I mean, they're going to be asking for one at the end of it. But here's the thing with Brennan is that if we have a situation with him where he ultimately ends up losing this case and tries to go back, like, because the way I keep looking at him, and I can't help it because I'm a defense bar guy, is I just look at him like a turncoat. It's like, and it's fine. I know that it's not as common as you see prosecutors come back to the defense bar or come to the defense bar, where you'll see defense bar guys go to the prosecution side, but it's pretty rare going that way. And for him to come back after the shit that he's pulled in this trial and the things that he said and done, I mean, because, Mark, I mean, defense bar lawyers were like a weird little tribe, and I'm very protective of other defense attorneys. Hell, the whole concept of our channel is to champion the importance of what we do in the system, because most people, from watching, Dateline and Oxygen and all that shit, all the content, it's always been about the government's the hero, the cops are the hero, the prosecutors the hero, and the defense attorneys are the scumbags. They're trying to get guilty people off, all that shit, that whole narrative that's been pumped into the public's mind for decades. Like, I work really hard to try to get people to understand, okay, that's not what we do. We protect people, the citizens of this country, by upholding the Constitution, because it's not the government that's doing that. So when he tries to make that move coming back out of this case, I don't know how it's going to work out for him. But, I I'd be hard pressed to hire him if I'm a criminal, you know, having seen what he's done here. I like whether or not that shakes out, who knows, but it's just a really bad look for him because he's coming off like a complete scumbag who's got zero moral compass. And you know, I don't want him bringing that shit back to the defense bar. You know, it's like any kind of headway we're making as defense attorneys globally, and you know, especially in our country, that guy's going to come back and shit all over it because they're going to be like, see, he was a defense lawyer.
It's really weird. You know, so I come from that classical trajectory. This happens all the time where you start out as a prosecutor, you know, whatever, it's the best trial experience you'll ever get. Certainly in a place like Manhattan, Chicago, whatever. I mean, you're in the trenches, you're in the big city, best defense lawyers you deal with. It's just whatever. And then you go to, you know, private practice and go from there. So he did that too, but at a level of success that he ostensibly is at, he goes back to being a prosecutor. Now that's a free choice, but let's be honest, that's rare and that's weird. Okay. You don't go from successful private practice to get brought in as a ringer for a piece of shit murder case. And I don't care that it's $250,000 payday. If you're in private practice, you're doing well, you're doing well. So that in and of itself is weird to do that. So what is the reason? I don't know. What is the reason that the DA saw fit to hire him when they have their own people? I don't know. No one ever seems to get an answer from him. But to your point, how do you go back? I mean, you see the underhanded crap that goes on in this case. You see the dissembling. You see the recklessness with the facts. You see what, to me, in my view, are underhanded tactics in what he does in the case. You see the sandbagging that he pulled today, and then with a straight face says this is fair, and he's going to be a defense attorney. And then you go back to the other things, and he tried to do the cardinal sin of somebody who wants to be a defense attorney, the holiest of holies. I mean, literally, a month and a half or 2 months ago, what did he do? I'm going to pierce Karen Reed's attorney-client privilege because she made one cockamamie, half-ass, gratuitous statement about, well, you know, David told me this, and filed a motion with a straight face, and I don't care about the merits of it or not, based on that, to say, I get to see everything that they spoke about, okay? I don't know a career prosecutor, and I know many, who would even think of doing that. I sure as hell don't know anyone who fancies himself being a high-level defense attorney who would say, well, I'm getting paid for this side, so what I'm going to do is break the most sacrosanct of holy privileges because there was allegedly a ticky-tack violation. I mean, it's just embarrassing. It's pathetic. And to me, who's touching this guy?
That's what I'm saying, man. Like he's ruined, and he should be. You know, because there's no bouncing back from it. I mean, the defense bar should shun him because of the shit he really does.
For his conduct in this case. And you know what? The jury will ultimately decide what happens, and it is what it is. But whatever happens to him professionally as a result of this case, that's on you, my man. You made your own bed. You made these decisions. If you think it's the right thing to do, God bless you. Good luck.
100%. All right. So let's stay in that area. And I want to
ask one thing, because we were talking about, and Bob and I said the same thing. Like, you got to ask to dismiss, you got to ask for a mistrial. Obviously with prejudice, people, we don't want to ask, you know, for a mistrial just to start over again, unless the defense for some reason wanted to. But when the three of us are saying mistrial right now, we mean with prejudice. It's clear she's not going to do it. I still want them to make the record as firmly as possible. But given what she said today, like, all right, what's your alternative to not even allowing them to testify? Because basically she's not going to do that. So I was trying to come up with what alternatives they could ask for. And I understand there are no good ones, but trying to craft something that might help. And you've got two issues. I was thinking with the ARCA and what's the other company? They're
Aperture.
Aperture, that they need to get a SIR reply. At a bare minimum, the defense needs a surreply if she's going to allow them to basically rebuff the rebuff. Do you think that that's at least something that would mitigate her allowing them to
No.
No,
That's what I said. I don't think so either.
well, then what could it be?
This is very simple, Judge. The answer to Brennan is no. Okay.
Right.
We are on trial. We have opened. We have called witnesses. They have prepared. They have been prejudiced. And unless you want me to grant a mistrial, Mr. Brennan, which I don't think you want, the answer is very simple. Too late. So sorry. Too bad. Call your next witness. That's what a judge should do. And the fact that she's even entertaining this bullshit is ridiculous. This is a ground ball. Look, people come from different jurisdictions. Judges do things differently. If somebody tried this stunt in New York City, okay, every single judge would look at the prosecutor and say, are you fucking kidding me? On trial, after all these witnesses have testified, this is what's going on. And then you're admitting to me, oh, by the way, that your own witness said, well, I had to sink it to Whiffen. If anything, my concern would be, I'd be looking at the prosecutor and saying, I'm not allowing you to use this report, okay? The bigger question that you should be worried about is, am I allowing the defense to cross-examine your expert on the fact that they tried to move the goalpost generally without getting into specifics to discredit them? This is a complete no-brainer. And the fact that she entertains this as a serious issue after the, you know, all the indignation over what the defense allegedly did.
And not only is entertaining it, but puts it back on Bob Alessi, asking him for an alternative to her barring that new report from coming in. And he's like, because he could not have articulated the argument any better than he did in terms of why everything that you're saying and everything that he is saying, he being Brennan, is a big no. Like none of that. And it all goes back to that. Like his Whiffen argument was brilliant and it was spot on. I mean, they relied on that, timeline in terms of that questioning of with it. I mean, to me, it's insane.
That argument was great, but I think it needs to be more detailed. Than like 2 minutes longer. I mean, they've got to explain to this judge that we got this report however many months ago. Okay, since that day, we've been preparing based on that. We gave it to our ARCA witnesses who are working on a factual assumption of that. Okay, we opened based on this. We cross-examined Whiffen and other witnesses based on this. We prepped the medical examiner and even cross-examined other witnesses based on this. And now you're telling us a month into trial, they got this report and Brennan says, I had no knowledge of it, but what am I to do? Of course I'm going to use it. They were allowed to keep investigating. I mean, to some extent that's true, but you can't move the
change your whole theory of the case.
You can't change expert reports. Experts battle experts. They rely on information. And now you're in the middle of trial. The only possible remedy that the judge could even consider, which I think would be insufficient, would be to adjourn it like 3 weeks, which is ridiculous. But the damage has been done, okay? They examined Whiffen in a very specific way based on the timeline because they were operating on the assumption that these people are alleging that John O'Keefe's phone was being used after he was incapacitated. And that's what they told us they would prove. And then here comes Brennan a week later saying, well, actually, they changed their mind. And with a straight face, he will tell you that's permissible. And then 5 minutes later say, Judge, don't forget, you already concluded that the defense violated Rule 14 and did unethical things because of ARCA, and they should be punished for this. I mean, this is grade A scumbag sandbagging practice. And for a prosecutor to do this, the guy wearing the white hat, okay, and anybody who was a prosecutor knows that, okay, you always had to wear the white hat, do the right thing, win or lose, whatever it is. And that's not him.
No.
Okay. Clearly, he is disgusting.
Yeah, he's gone above and beyond in terms of just the lows that he'll sink to. It's like it's hard for me to watch it. It really is, because it's just like like I said, man, I keep having that feeling. I'm like, this is a defense bar guy, and I'm like, he is just such a shitbag. It's so gross. And Mark, you know as well as I do, if we had ever tried as defense attorneys to try to put an inverted video in and then put a witness on to testify that that was a true and accurate depiction of the sallyport, we would have been run up committee flagpole immediately.
Yeah,
we would have been kicked out of the court. Like, it would have been like this. The whole world would have come to an end if a defense attorney tries to pull that shit. And she didn't admonish him at all. Like, because we're always going to be in the shadow of that. Like, this thing should have been dismissed. The second motion to dismiss they filed, I think that she had no choice. I knew she wasn't going to do it, but she had no choice but to dismiss it. And it should have been retroactive. It wasn't always forward looking with that motion to dismiss. You had to look back at the result that it had in the first trial, and it had to have been punitive in nature, because otherwise you're telling the government, you know what, you can go ahead and do that, and then we're going to give you a second bite at the apple.
Right. And well, that's what, Mark, you said last time we brought this up. If it was in New York prosecution, or, like the judge would shut the shit down, right away. Just shut it down.
And yeah, and I think in most places, and I don't know what goes on in this bizarre county that, we're told is in America, but, I'm not so sure at sometimes.
Now, I don't know I think I looked into Massachusetts interlocutory appeal, and correct me if I'm wrong, you don't have a defense interlocutory appeal.
They're not stopping the trial to go to, which is exactly the defense point. What it ought to be is, we've gone too far. There's no turning back. And that's why this issue in front of the judge right now really is open and shut. There's nothing to think about. You're on trial. You made us start April 1st under the threat of, we'll all turn into pumpkins if we don't. Everybody met that schedule. And then come May 8th, after all these witnesses, after a month of trial and whatnot, all of a sudden they say, we're going to move the goalpost because our guy from Aperture has decided that the clock didn't work. So it's 30 seconds off, which just conveniently happens to, fit our timeline in coordination with what Ian Whiffen said. And what judge would say, yeah, okay, that sounds okay. How is this even open for debate?
Yeah, it's and just so folks out there that may not, interlocutory appeal is an appeal that's filed while the trial's going on, either pre-trial or while the trial's happening, as opposed to like post-conviction appeal. So that's what we're talking about.
Right.
Here.
It's very limited times. The defense almost never has it except on a bail motion, or in this case, they had it for after a mistrial for a double jeopardy claim, or if the prosecution is like prevented from putting on evidence that is like crucial to their case. But yeah, it's very limited. And so if you are Alessi and Judge Cannoni, as she is putting your feet to the fire, I'm not throwing the case out. I'm not keeping their lawyers out, and I'm not granting you a continuance, because that's another option Bob and I said today when she's like, what else? Well, a really long continuance. And she's not doing that. You've got to ask for something with her caveat that you're not waiving, because that's like a big judge trick. Like, what's the other thing? Or will you agree to this? Like, and then you waive your request. So she gave him that. Like, if you give me words back, it's not waiving what you've asked for. What could you come up with if you had to? If she's putting your feet to the fire?
First thing I'm doing is, and I know she hates this because Bob does talk a lot, but that's fine because he's brilliant. First thing I'm doing is saying, Your Honor, we're making a record, okay? And you might want to sit down and get a fresh cup of coffee or take a bathroom break, whatever it is, because there's a lot to do here, okay? And I would spell out in chronological order what has happened since the day that these Aperture people showed up on the scene, okay? Including, by the way, if you recall, when this guy first showed up, he screwed up the gigabytes and gigabits. This is the same guy who now apparently screwed up the clock, which is another issue for his credibility. But I would just lay down the whole chronology of when we learned how they told us, how we prepared, each witness, everything that we did, and we are prejudiced. And you are putting us in an untenable position in which we choose not to proceed through no fault of our own. And this is a woman on trial for murder.
Sorry.
Is facing prison for the rest of her life. And we have been, they use the word ambushed. I like the word sandbag. Okay. This is just grosser than gross, the way they did this, and say, there's no remedy here. The prejudice is done. Okay.
Right.
What are you going to do? Have us call Whiffen back? I mean,
That's what I was thinking. She lets them cross-examine him again.
And how does that work? Like that doesn't work.
Does it?
I mean,
No, it doesn't. The point is they have told the jury their theory, argued their points, emphasized the timeline, done all of these things. You can't put this toothpaste back in the tube. We're way too far down the rabbit hole. Okay. So the answer is, Judge, you are committing reversible error. Okay. She's got a due process right to a fair trial that includes not being sandbagged in the middle of trial,
right?
By them moving the goalpost and then claiming with a straight face, it just happened organically. What am I supposed to do? What you're supposed to do, Judge, is say no. Okay.
Right.
Because the person with a right to a fair trial here is Karen.
Right.
Not Hank.
Government.
Right.
So what the judge should do is tell Brennan politely, go fuck yourself.
Right.
The ship sailed.
Right.
Yeah, like Sherry D says, they did it in the Alec Baldwin case.
There's a jury in the box. We're too far down. There's too much going on here. She's facing life in prison. She's prepared for trial based on everything that you previously represented was accurate. And now your guy says, well, after Whiffen testified, I found out it's 30 seconds off because I have to fit that timeline.
I mean, she caused a lot of this. She caused a lot of this. She should have granted continuances when both parties were asking for them.
100%. I mean, she's like living and dying with that trial date. Like the world was going to cave in on itself if trial didn't start on that fucking day. And now here we are. And, you know, the problem is that their aperture person knew about the clock problem or whatever, this delineation between it months ago. So like everything that he's arguing now is just a bunch of bullshit. I mean, it's more of what Brennan does. Brennan just literally says shit and never provides any kind of actual evidence or proof of what he's saying. And it goes back to, like, it was driving me nuts with Buchane on the stand talking about the inverted video shit, where they're just getting up and testifying. Yeah, we figured out that there's 2 cameras in the police station that they've been doing it. I'm like, where's the proof? I want proof of one other case where you have tendered discovery to the defense where it shows that the video was inverted. Prove it. Like, why are they allowed to just say shit without producing any kind of evidence that what they're saying is true? I just don't get it.
These people told you today was May 15th. Would you believe them without looking at your watch?
No.
Not a chance.
I would. Okay. I wouldn't believe a word of what these people say because this is not new. Okay. This has been a systemic pattern from the day this guy showed up on the scene. Okay. There have been so many reckless statements, inaccurate statements, gaslighting statements. Just it goes on and on and on. And what he doesn't seem to realize, and what, at least by appearance, the judge doesn't seem to recognize either, is there's only one person here with a right to a fair trial. It's the defendant. It's Karen. Okay. Right. So you can't err on the side, excuse me, of just saying, well, what's the difference? You know, we'll give you a couple days to reevaluate and recall witnesses. No, that's not how it works. And the worst part, I don't know if it's the worst part, but a bad part is this case is like in the national spotlight. It's on TV every day.
Yep.
And this is just a complete farce and spectacle for the whole country, the whole world, indeed, to see what an absolute joke the criminal justice system is in that county and perhaps that state, depending on whatever else is going on. I mean, it's just embarrassing. And people are watching, trying to learn about the legal system
all over the country.
And this is what they see. And if those people are watching now, this is not normal. This is not how it works.
This is not how the shit works, because it's a reflection way beyond that county. Because when people are watching it, and this trial has the kind of eyes that OJ had on it, and when people are going to walk away with this thinking that this is how normal prosecutors act, and this is how, more importantly, normal judges act, and it's not. Like, this is not how this thing works. It's not how this thing is supposed to work. And it should scare the shit out of people, because at the end of the day, no matter what happens to Karen, I mean, if God forbid she's convicted, I mean, it's going to get appealed. I have to think that it'll get overturned, and it's going to go for a third trial if they're stupid enough to bring it again. And, I mean, when does it end? Like, at what point do these people for the Commonwealth look in the mirror and say, all right,
Never.
There's just no case to be tried here. It's like, to me, it's just one of those cases where, frankly, they're never going to be able to put a case on that's ever going to be able to meet their burden, because it doesn't exist.
They had to bring in a ringer and pay extra money to get someone to try the case. I mean, if that's not a red flag, what else is? There's no conflict. I mean, the DA's office is sitting at the table, yet they're still paying $250,000 or more to bring in a ringer. Okay, why? What? I mean, in what world is this normal? At the end of the day, I won't say it's an unsophisticated or not complex murder case, but it's still a street crime murder case. This is not a federal, 300 count,
RICO trial,
district fraud case where you sit there and say, my God, we need like 27 lawyers just to do document review. This is not that.
It ain't that. I mean, I don't want to call it run of the mill, but it's kind of a run of the mill.
It is.
Any criminal defense attorney. I mean, this is a run of the mill type case.
Because you could try this as a DWI case, as a misdemeanor DWI case. And you could, in essence, argue that if you believe she's guilty of a DWI and banging into someone, then she's guilty of something. I mean, I don't do that, but you could argue that.
Right.
At least where I come from, they have, rookie ADAs try those cases.
Yep.
I'm not saying this is a rookie ADA case. It's not, clearly. But this is not the kind of thing where it requires, $250,000 of extra taxpayer money to try what, in essence, it's a high profile case, but it's a relatively simple case.
Right.
And by the way, look at the way he's trying it. Very simple. He's not calling any witnesses.
Right.
Well, and what we've seen with the past couple witnesses is, and we've been calling it our channel, and this is a classic example of the defense turning the state's witness into a defense witness. They started, just like you said, in the first 5 minutes of Scordi-Bello, I can't speak. Her cross. They're asking, well, would you have a neurosurgeon or a neurologist do your death investigation? And we're like, Brennan's trying to objection. They're destroying my case right now and my upcoming witnesses.
This is, I mean, there are so many red flags. I mean, look at the first trial. Look at this guy, Trooper Paul. This was their expert. I mean, what an embarrassment. Okay. I'm sure he's going to be memory hold for this case. But, so they bring in these guys who don't know the difference between gigabytes and gigabits, and then he's going to move the goalposts later. They can't get, as you said, a medical examiner, so they have to get a neurologist who their own medical examiner who did the actual autopsy within 2 minutes across says they're not qualified to do this. I mean, this prosecution is a shit show. I mean, with capital S, capital S. This is just the kind of thing where sensible prosecutors would require much more proof than this. But these people are just dug in. They're never going to let go. It's not about justice at this point. They're dug in.
Yeah, it's a position. It's I mean, and here's what should scare the shit out of everybody that's watching this trial. If Karen didn't have the resources to be able to fight these motherfuckers the way that she is, in terms of being able to hire everyone that she's needed to hire, we're talking about most likely a conviction. Because if they're going at somebody that hard, and like most defendants in this country, they simply don't have the money to put on this type of defense, to hire these types of lawyers, you're going down. I mean, that is the reality of our world and our criminal justice system in this country. And that should scare people, because to me, what this trial is it's a perfect light being shown on just the power of the government, their unlimited resources. And we're able to see just exactly how much you have to put forth in terms of effort and resources from the defense side in order to truly be able to even the playing field in the courtrooms that we're fighting in every day, and lawyers all over this country, man. I mean, it's like, it's a scary proposition. You know, I mean, like beating the government is just it's a Herculean task. And it's to me, I hope that people understand that, like, Karen's fortunate that she's got so many people behind her, that she had resources in order to be able to hire amazing attorneys and to put out money to hire experts, because that ain't it. That is not the world that we live in. That's not the reality for most defendants. And I just think that this trial is a perfect example of that, in showing people that, look, when you have the power of the government bearing down on you relentlessly, not giving a shit about the truth, but merely out of the principle of their thing for them, in terms of trying to get a conviction on a case because they've dug into their position, it really should give people pause in this country. And you should think about who you're voting in as prosecutors. You should think about who you're voting in as judges. Do a little research before you just go into the ballot box. And like Mark, in Illinois, we elect judges. I think somebody was telling me in Mass, I think they're all appointed. Is that true? Are they all appointed there?
Massachusetts is historically a politically corrupt place. The old boy network, the old, just especially in like Norfolk County, there's certain towns and cities in Norfolk County, like Quincy, which is just, I had relatives who live there, which are just renownedly famous for having hack politicians. And surprise, surprise, that's Morrissey's home base. Shocker. I mean, obviously that reeks or leads to more corruption. They're not accountable to voters. Now, on the other hand, do you want judges who act about politics and might make decisions based on voters? No. But in essence, if you're appointed, you're a judge for life, unless there's a reason not to be. And that certainly, I think, breeds more corruption. You mentioned that these people don't care. They'll just do anything and they're just going forward.
Right.
In this case, nothing indicates that more than that day, a year and a half or 2 years ago, whatever it was, when they got all the federal materials. I mean, when they learned about the ARCA stuff, they learned about Proctor's texts, they learned about the butt dials, they learned about some of this Higgins stuff. And you have to remember, and it bears repeating again and again, within a couple of weeks, the prosecution reviewed all that material and just came to court and matter-of-factly said, we're good. There's nothing exculpatory here. This is fine.
That's insane.
And I'm here to tell you that any sensible prosecutor, which means most and certainly nobody in Norfolk County, at a minimum, would have called a timeout, told the judge, we need an adjournment, just to kind of, and what any responsible prosecutor would have done, they would have hauled Proctor in and they would have said, the hell is this? Like,
dude, right?
this.
You got some explaining to do.
And they would have said, we have these experts that the federal government hired. Whether you like them or not, they're saying there's no car accident.
Yeah.
And we're staring at 47 pieces of taillight, which we can't really account for. And we're looking at all this other stuff. And I'm not saying you would dismiss the case, but you might say, we kind of need to know what your explanation for this is, if any, and go from there. These people got up and said, we're good. And they're not qualified to be public servants. That's the problem. They're not in it for justice or fairness. They're in it to do what they're told to do and pursue, a position and an outcome that they were told is the right one. And it's like they just have that drone or hive mentality where they just do what they're told to do, pursue a result, and they just stop thinking like intelligent human beings, and it's disgraceful.
It's scary.
And what do you guys think was, now remember the criminalist, she said after her testimony, Your Honor, I have to fix I got to fix an aspect of my testimony. I was thinking it was going to be something that was beneficial to the defense. I understand there's like a risk. You don't want to, but do you think they try to find out later what it was, or what do you think it was? What do you think happened there?
It's probably favorable to the defense, and I'm going to assume it could. I mean, I'm just speculating, but let's have fun. It could only be, in my mind, one of two things. This ridiculous situation where there was a mirror image and she logged it twice, when it's so obviously they're both number one and there's a reverse B. And I mean, it is what it is.
Right.
Or this fakakta testimony about
the hair,
which turned around and she said it, well, it was the camera angle. It's like, well, it's not really that different. That's not going to
flip it.
I agree with you in principle. It probably favored the defense, but I think they handled it perfectly. I like the way they did it because to me, it was a perfect storm. She volunteers it at the end, which is weird. And she's discrediting herself about an unknown fact, saying, well, I need to change my mind. The judge, I think, inappropriately before the sidebar says, well, who asked you the question that you want to change? As if she's not thinking. And she says the defense. And I love, no, we need to come up. And he says, no, there's no question pending. She's done.
Right.
I agree with that because at the end of the day, the jury is left with the impression that this prosecution scientist basically said, I said something inaccurate. And they're all going to speculate about what it was. And it's a prosecution problem. And I love the way they handled it.
Yeah. And I felt the same way. And, you know, I was asking Allie, I'm like, I don't know that I've ever seen that. I've never seen a witness at the end of an examination where they're like, oh, by the way, I wanted to change some shit that I said at some point. And like Allie being Allie, she just wants to know what the fuck she was going to say. I want to know. Like, I'm like, let's bring her over into the sidebar and let's hear what she has to say. And then we'll decide if we're, you know, and I'm like,
right. But it was the safer bet. I agree. But then I'm like, all right, maybe they send someone to ask her later in case it was something huge. But I do think it was probably something like, because the first time she testified, she said the hair, the first picture of the hair was a backward C. And this or a regular C, I forget which way it was, but then the next time, this time she wouldn't say that the shape was different. So I didn't know if maybe it was just.
Why did she hold this big revelation until the end as opposed to just because obviously if she says it on the stand, one of the two lawyers probably would take the bait and say, what is it? But when she just gratuitously offers it after already being very effectively cross-examined and then says, I said something inaccurate. No, I agree with the defense. Yep, you're done. Goodbye.
Yeah. And I have to be honest, when we were watching it in real time and I was trying to understand what Alessi was saying with respect to it being a reflection, like it didn't dawn on me because I kept looking at the photograph and I'm like, and it didn't dawn on me that I'm seeing the reflection of those kind of furrows that are in the, you know, on the actual bumper itself. And it never struck me as to like, okay, well, yeah, why am I seeing that on the black?
I don't know.
The tailgate. And then when it finally hit me, I'm like, oh my God, it's a reflection. Like, did Hank not see that? Or was it him trying to slip some more shit through? As if there were two pieces of like, I don't know what the fuck that guy does, man.
I don't know what he does either, but all I can tell you is this, like Bob, whatever else he is, he's like bionic. Okay.
He is, man.
He does like 37 hours of work in a 24-hour day. It's just, I mean, his level of preparation for these kinds of very technical examinations is nothing you ever see. I mean, he was made to cross-examine experts.
He really was. It's almost like he plugs into the Matrix every night. Like he goes home and just plugs in, all the data pours in, and then he's ready to go. He's unbelievable. I love watching him work. You know, and as lawyers, I think we enjoy watching lawyers out there doing their thing, but like he's a different level of amazing, and he's just so fucking smart. Yeah, it's like you said. I mean, there's nothing that he can't handle from the science side of it, and it really is. He's playing 4D chess, and Brennan's playing with color forms. Man, it's like it's just two completely different things. All right, so here's my prediction. Sadly, and I want to know if you guys agree. I think that Cannoni's going to let the aperture shit in, and I think that she's going to say, "Look, you're going to have to handle this. What I'm going to allow you to do is I'm going to allow you to basically impeach them on them changing their timeline mid-trial." And it's like, I think we're going to be stuck with it. Like, I can't see her not doing that.
That reeks of suspicious. Look, what I can tell you is this: if she does that, and if there is a conviction, which I don't think there will be, but if there is, that strikes me as really, really strong point of appeal. I mean, that is just outrageous that they could do that mid-trial. And, I got to tell you something else. A lot of people have this view that the judge is biased, she's in the tank, and that it rises to a level that's unfair. And, that obviously usually never works on appeal. But you start compiling a greatest hits list of all these weird decisions, and then the cherry on the ice cream is this thing. That argument of judicial bias, because don't forget about the shit fit everybody had over ARCA and how corrupt the defense lawyers are, and this is apparently a big nothing. I got to tell you that becomes a real strong basis on appeal on a double whammy, reversing a conviction, and then and this is a rare thing, but specifically saying wheel this out to a different judge in the event there's going to be a retrial.
Yeah.
We're getting close to that point if she literally allows this. This cannot be allowed. I mean, the reason this can't be allowed is because the trial has started, the examinations have started, the crosses have been done based upon the older data, and no one told the defense what was coming. This is the worst case of sandbagging you could imagine, and she has to deny this. She just has to not allow this.
I mean, I thought that she had to dismiss it as much as she didn't want to, and she just didn't do it. I'm like, there is no remedy. There is no remedy under the law that is going to sufficiently fix what they did to Karen Reed in that first trial with that inverted video shit. And like you say, the totality of the circumstances, when you look at her entire record of things that she's done, things that she said, and the way that she's ruled on certain things, I mean, it's inexplicable. And like I said, like I'm coming out of this Richard Allen case where I had this judge doing shit like things I had never seen a judge do before my entire life. And like I'm hoping for the same thing, that you get that double whammy wherein he gets a new trial, but most importantly, they pull that judge off that case because they cannot try it in front of her. And man, it's like, if that goes, so well, let me ask you this: where do you think the Commonwealth goes from here? I mean, they got to be getting pretty close to their end of the case in chief, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're, obviously, I think they've had a really bumpy ride up until now. I think they've had a lot of bad days, but today was rock bottom. I mean, the medical examiner was an unmitigated and irreparable disaster. I mean, imagine Alan summing up on that. Okay, good luck. Just that bad. Where do they go from here? Well, apparently they moved the goalposts, they changed the timeline, and they offer a triggering event, and they say that John O'Keefe was moving around until he got hit. And lo and behold, the phone data matches perfectly what the new and improved third timeline for the accident shows. And then they say, look, see, she's guilty. Other than that, I don't know what else they really have to do. But, it is interesting because even if they're allowed to do this, which they shouldn't, the cross-examination of this expert, it would be brutal. I mean, are you kidding me? Mid-trial, you're crunching numbers, okay? You already screwed up the gigabytes and gigabits, so you're already not, really a grade A scientist. You got hired off the internet after the first trial, which is a fact, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then there's this little nugget that Bob released today, which was that the expert in his report or some email or something basically said I had to do it to, you know, sync with Whiffen. I mean, that kind of helps the cover-up argument in terms of, like, it's still ongoing. It's like an ongoing conspiracy. So I think he probably gets destroyed anyway. But this is not a game that the defense should have to play in the first instance.
Right.
This is a joke, and it's not appropriate. And you just, it's not like a witness can just say, well, I rethought something, so I'm going to, you know, tell the jury this, and you can cross-examine. This is an expert who is, you know, required to file a report. There are specific discovery rules as it relates to experts. It's mid-trial. They've relied upon it. Their experts have relied upon it. And we've cross-examined on it. You can't do this. And I'm stunned that this judge can't literally today listen to the argument and say, that's wonderful, Mr. Brennan. No.
Right.
And that's it.
Right. It's that simple. It's that simple.
It is that simple.
It is that simple. Yet she just never does it. And beyond her not making the right decision under the law in terms of some of these things that she does, she's never had a crossword for all the shit that the Commonwealth has pulled in both of these trials. It's like in the pre-trial periods as well. It's unbelievable to me, because when I first came into it, I'm like, you know, Bev, she's not that biased. And then the more you watch, it's like you can't help but just see it. Like, I mean, like, and I don't know what her game is.
I don't know.
I don't understand it.
Put the shoe on the other foot. Suppose hypothetically, after everything you heard about ARCA, okay, here comes the defense who comes in today and says, oh, Judge, we just want to let you know, we got a new and improved ARCA report. We just got it hot off the press. And here it is. Here you go, Mr. Brennan, and we're good. They'd be having strokes.
Right.
Okay.
And his head would explode in open court.
But so would Judge Canoni's, and extra sighing.
Yeah. Huge.
Like today,
huge
they asked on cross, the ME was asked, were you given information about any alternate possibilities? And she said no. And then there was some kind of objection, and the judge said the witness's answer will stand. There is no evidence of that. And she was making it sound like there is no evidence of alternative things. And we're like, we paused, and I'm like, what the fuck is she talking about?
No,
the witness said no. That is the evidence. No.
What you want to say is, Your Honor, you should take an oath before you say that.
Exactly.
Right. Presenting
being a witness, Judge.
Testifying. Yeah.
It's like that scene from The Verdict where the judge pulled some shit like that, and Paul Newman's like, "Oh, Your Honor, if you're going to try my case for me, please don't lose it." It's that same kind of shit, man. So, what was your take on Buchane? We had him for 3 days on the stand, man. I mean, well, before we get into that, have you ever seen a case wherein the lead prosecutor doesn't appear that he's going to be testifying, and the ME turns out to actually be a defense witness? I mean, I didn't think Scordi-Bello was getting called. Like, I really did.
No, I've never seen anything like it where you just simply don't call the lead investigator, for the reasons are obvious, but to not see that, and to not want to call the ME, but, they kind of got smoked out of their cave and they had to. But the best part is this. These geniuses take the following strategy. We can't mention Proctor because he's damaged goods. We don't want to deal with Tully either because he's kind of, got his own issues. So what we're going to have is Buchane is going to be the guy. He's going to be Atlas. He's going to be the guy carrying the weight of the state police. He's the good one, the clean one, the smooth one. He'll be the guy. And the other bonus is he was with Proctor at basically every step. So he can, in a legal sense, explain actions because he was with him. I get it. Okay. So what's amazing to me about Buchane's testimony is this. In the first instance, the lack of preparation of him was absolutely stunning. Okay. From a so-called expert lawyer, prosecutor, you're doing this in a very unconventional way. All right. He's going to get clobbered with the Proctor shit because he's Atlas. He's taking the weight. Okay. And he's not prepped because look, again, I look at this as a little different way because I used to be one of these people. I was one of these prosecutors. And the conversations you would have if you're going to deal with a guy like Buchane was to say, listen, Proctor's a scumbag. Eat it. Okay? I'm not doing this. My credibility matters with the jury. We can think she's guilty and he didn't do anything wrong, but we're eating this. Okay? What we're not doing is parsing words and fighting with the lawyer for 3 hours over whether he was the lead investigator, when, by the way, everybody knows he was the lead investigator.
He was the lead guy.
By the way, every other trooper or state police employee, whether it be scientist, trooper, was like, well, yeah, of course he was the lead investigator. We all knew that. So why you would choose to die on that hill and talk about, well, he wasn't the lead because in my definition, it's 50% plus one, and all this other nonsense and all the parsing over the text messages. Well, what did he mean? Well, it says this. Well, what did it mean? Well, I don't know. And, he liked the text, right? About, looking for nudes. He liked it.
Right.
Well, no, what I was doing was I was acknowledging it. Well, with a thumbs up.
Just acknowledging it. I mean, he didn't even read it. He just acknowledged its existence.
I mean, you could have acknowledged it with a thumbs down, right? Like, hey.
If the state police are under attack here, okay, and again, you're calling Buchane as Atlas, one of the things that, and he should know better because he's an experienced lawyer, one of the things a prosecutor preparing him to testify would be turn off the arrogant, smug bullshit, because, man, are you arrogant and smug. So rule number one is this: take your freaking elbow off the rail, okay?
Oh, my God, that drove me nuts.
Just do it the right way. Stop the smugness. Don't give me the I don't understand you. Don't fight over every word. Buchane was one of the worst police witnesses in this case I've ever seen. And it's stunning because there's no reason for it. If he were to have said,
Weasley little liar, dude.
if he just says, you know what, Proctor, he was the lead investigator. It is what it is. He no longer works here. He was terminated. When he's getting crossed on the text and he just says, look, those texts were inappropriate. What about your responses? You know what? At the time, I was unprofessional. I regret it. But you know what? It's a bad reflection of me. I apologize. Shouldn't have done it. But no, this guy Buchane argues about his thumbs up. And then when he gets hit on the evaluations of, relates to the public well, is very professional in his dealings. The guy is just loyal in service of the crown. And he just comes off as your classic state police Neanderthal, which is exactly the opposite of what the prosecution should be trying to sell. And by the way, I don't think Buchane is dumb at all. Okay. I think he's actually, as far as these guys go, much smarter, much more intelligent. But he was unprepped, and I blame the prosecutor for not telling him, cut the bullshit.
Right.
Do it the right way. It's going to be a little bit of a rocky road. It's a little embarrassing, but let's be professional. And he couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it.
And I blame Brennan for that.
100%. I mean, it's like you said, it's like, he's got the weight of the world. He's taking the bullets. He's taking all the bullets. So they're putting him on for 3 fucking days. They knew he was going to get hammered on cross. And, Brennan just says, look, man, he gave him zero guidance, because you're right. Everything that he was doing for 3 days, just
unfighting.
Things are clear. And I'm like, the jury has common sense. Where there's clearly an answer where he should just be answering, yeah, that's a shitty way to do it. It's not the proper procedure. Just answer it that way.
These guys, in the case of the century, whatever you want to call it, at round 2, by the way, could not introduce shoes properly.
Oh, God.
Even recognize before they got to court that some idiot, Proctor, mislabeled the bags, and they've got 2 left shoes, 2 right shoes. I'm not suggesting anybody planted a shoe, but when the defense is that the cops are incompetent, they're corrupt, they don't know what they're doing, they're just a bunch of Keystone morons, and here comes this arrogant guy talking about shoes and they've got 2 left shoes.
I mean, it's right. It's not only that he said he found it at a different spot. It was the same size shoe, whichever. But so what do you think was up with that? Because the defense never circled back and was like, can you, like, is that ever coming up again? Did that just disappear?
I'm a little surprised, to be honest with you, that they didn't examine him and have him read the bag and read the other bag,
right?
Tell us whose words it was, Michael Proctor, and just have fun that way. I would hope it would come up in summation. It's worth the 20 seconds when talking about, solo cups, leaf blowers, and other things they screwed up, not isolating evidence, not securing a crime scene, not taking a picture of the so-called murder weapon. I would think it's worth adding in that they can't even label the evidence they recover properly. I don't know why that didn't come up.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, because it's indicative of the entire investigation. I mean, it's like it was like a real-time example of just how much they've shit the bed with this entire.
I don't know how you screw that up. I literally can't even hypothesize how you could screw that up.
Because who brought the first? Was Gallagher? He brought the first one, and I thought it was in a box.
I think it was
a box with a bag in it.
It was some other trooper who had a small role that they introduced it, who was present at the search. And I think they had him do it because they're not calling Proctor. I mean, it's just this is one of those risks that they take by not calling the lead investigator. And look, I don't know what they're going to do, but I really sincerely hope that the defense doesn't feel, well, we got what we needed. I would call Proctor.
100%.
He's beyond rehabilitation. There's nothing they can do. Same with Higgins. I would do it. And then in summation say, they hid the truth from you. You only got this from us. Why are we calling this witness? And I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, I can certainly understand the argument that there's so much damage not to do it. I would be very aggressive and drag Proctor in and just club him over the head again and again. There's nothing that they can do on cross, even with a cross, which is more favorable for them.
Yep.
Save him. Get those texts in. Get all the other crap.
Got to get it all in.
Because there's a lot. There's a lot they didn't get in. The price.
And I thought that was like, to me, that was the cue that they're going to call him, because they could have. They could have gotten like the balloon knot shit in, and just all the awful shit that he was saying, and that he hopes she kills herself. Like, all those things still need to come in. And I think that they could have gotten them in under the same guys that they got what they got in with Buchane. So to me, you got to call him. You have to call him. You can't have him floating around being this specter that nobody really knows who he is, other than he was the lead investigator. Because you're right, Mark. At the end of the day, you need to be able to stand up during summation and say, hey, you got to ask yourself why. Why were we the ones who had to bring you their lead investigator? Because that's not how it's done.
That guy was texting.
I just hate him. I hate him. I hate him.
The day of the incident, he was texting buddies. When his buddy texted him, I'll bet that homeowner is going to catch some shit. He's good. He's a Boston cop. I mean, that is
huge.
And not only that,
call him just for that.
There's something else they could have done with Buchane, which they didn't. I'm a little surprised. But you get another shot with Proctor. Is there's no picture of the taillight when they first saw it. I mean, they're all telling you what it looks like based on memory, but none of these knuckleheads ever took a picture. And to me, that's actually not credible. That's beyond belief. They
did bring that up with whichever cop testified that he, and I think it was Buchane, but I'm not sure, that he went there for the purposes. At first, he was on his way to talk to Karen, and on the way there, he learned this thing about the taillight. He was going there to look at the taillight. They're like, all right, you're going there for this important evidence. I'm sorry, all evidence is important. Okay, but this one's important too. Or all evidence is important. Anyway, you're going there for this important evidence, and you don't take a picture. So they did, touch on it. Right.
He doesn't bust out his phone and take a couple of shots of it. It's incredulous. It's incredulous.
It's more reliable for the jury to hear about your memory of 3 years ago as opposed to a picture dated that day when you were there. Is that better evidence? And you know what he would probably say? Could be. Sure.
Right. Sure.
Yeah, because he'd fall in, he would take the cheese, right? I mean, that's just the way he is. Proctor, though, with all the stuff going on, what is he going to say? He gets, crushed on getting terminated. I mean, he just gets grilled and dragged. And then in summation, you say, why are we calling this guy? He is the lead investigator. I mean, what's he going to do? Is he going to like parrot Buchane and say, no, I wasn't. I was, the case manager. I mean,
Bukkake.
I mean, as far as, so what was your take on the epic nerd battle between Hyde and Alessi, which every time he's up there, I'm like fascinated. I'm like riveted more than anybody else. I'm sitting there like at the edge of my seat, and that was such a beautiful nerd war between Alessi and Hyde. What was your what was your takeaway? Like, where do you think that landed? What do you think that did for the defense or the Commonwealth, either way?
So before you get to the actual exam, I think there's like a few facts that matter or theories before. Number one, when somebody like Hyde and Whiffen, those experts are, for me, and I'm sure you would agree, for the defense, they're house money.
Yeah.
They don't have to win, if that's the right term. The prosecution, on the other hand, if they don't conclusively establish that the search did not occur at 2:27 a.m. by Jennifer McCabe, they're done. I mean, there's no innocent explanation for that other than she's involved in the cover-up.
Right.
So you start with that. They don't have to win. They just have to kind of plant some doubt. The other thing before it started was, and this goes back to the judge, Hyde was denied the right to testify in another state based on improper methodology, which was very similar to this case. Now, obviously, Canoni can disagree. That's fine. But the Massachusetts rules basically say they're allowed to do this. And to deny the defense the right to say, this was rejected elsewhere. Maybe this isn't so great. I thought that was wrong.
Me too.
Putting that all aside, I thought the defense won only because it wasn't compelling for the prosecution. It didn't blow me away. And again, it doesn't help to some level that the witness was kind of out there. I mean, when she started talking about like waffles and pizza and burgers and all this stuff, I'm just thinking,
I'm hungry.
Right before lunch.
You lost the plot.
This is high technical stuff anyway. You're not really wowing me with science. I know the defense is going to call someone who's going to say, well, I don't really agree with you, which again, to me is like kind of a draw, Right. So I don't think Hyde was terrible. I mean, she's clearly intelligent. She's certainly out there. I mean, just her method is unique, but I don't think in the context of this case, she did enough, because I don't think her answers were overwhelming. There's no way that this search could have, happened at 2:27. I mean, look, her and Whiffen both agree that there are other, softwares out there, Axiom, whatever, that they all agree are every bit as credible as the Celebrate Whiffen formula they're using, and they disagree with them. And, Whiffen's formula was changed because of this case and because of him. I mean, that's kind of weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, so Spiritual Awakener points out that the Whitney trial, Brennan was proving corrupt government. This trial, he is the corrupt government, and asks if the FBI can step in. Do you even think the FBI is paying attention to this anymore? They can't shut down any state trial, but do you think they're even paying attention anymore?
I don't know. I mean, probably, but what does that mean? Is that curiosity or?
Right. But this changing of the time, like how Alessi says, I think it might be calculated, and we're all like, it's fucking clearly calculated. I mean, is there? It just doesn't make any sense why the judge isn't at least raising some sort of issue with that when it's so significant and doesn't even sort of say something like, Mr. Brennan, it's not a little, even to comment, like, it's not a little thing. It's not nothing. This is a real issue that we're going to have to figure out. I mean, something other than, Mr. Alessi, can you give me other alternatives to that one?
I think it's awful. I mean, watching the end of today felt like being in Bizarro world. I mean, I can't believe that there is no concern emanating from the bench about, in the middle of my trial that I forced all you to start, all of your experts have testified, both of your cell phone people, the defense has had their moments. They've argued this. They're trying to establish a timeline. And now you're telling me after that, gratuitously, you're changing this and you had nothing to do with it, but yet your own expert who's going to do this says I had to make it align with Whiffen. And her response is,
Alessi, what's your other alternatives?
Yeah, she puts it on Bob to come up with some kind of remedy.
And you've got this, I know it's only a slight time change, but they were already too far for Karen's car to have been at 34 Fairview and at the Wi-Fi at, is it 1236 or 1237? 1236. It's a 6 or 7 minute drive on a good day. Right. On a good day. Now it's 1232 that she is in the process of hitting him and then has to drive, during a storm. And I don't know what he's going to try. How are they even going to, it's like, got to get to a point where even the judge is thinking, either way you have this, either she's there and too far, and couldn't be home, or she's home and he was still moving around during the drive. It's one or the other, and this is a joke.
The amount of reasonable doubt, again, it's not about whether, she did it, she didn't do it. I mean, we're lawyers, and people understand that. The amount of reasonable doubt here is suffocating.
Yeah.
And, a lot of the fighting that you see online between, some of the wackos who go back and forth and screaming and yelling and trolling and whatever.
It's so much.
She did it. And what triggers them more than anything else, say, okay, I understand that. Can you explain to me why you are convinced that there's proof beyond a reasonable doubt? I accept that you think she did it, whatever the hell that means. But how do you address all this evidence, which at least clearly favors the defense? And how do you square, it doesn't matter, she's guilty. And it's like, you can't fix stupid. So
you can't.
And then you had today him making all those comments about the freezer and what were some of the other ones? Where was her sua sponte, instruction to the court, to the jurors, disregard that was inappropriate, that is not evidence, all the things she does when she thinks the defense has said something that she didn't think they should say.
The freezer thing was just, I mean, again, it's delicious. It writes itself. Everybody looks at this guy, mob lawyer, and he's got Goodfellas on the mind when he's panicking during a redirect that's not going well. I mean, the idea that you would actually even ask that Karen Reed put, John O'Keefe in a freezer, or is there any evidence of that? I mean, how can you even? It's just embarrassing. I mean, what else?
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. All right, so. In terms of, and you, like, you and I have parted ways in terms of whether or not I thought that they were going to be pressured to put Karen on, which, for the record, I mean, we're a defense attorney. We abhor the concept of ever having to put our client on. I think what we've seen thus far have come over to your side. I think that we've seen enough damage done with their own witnesses to where I don't think that they're going to need to put her on. Because I was worried early, because with him just playing the clips with no
look at even now. The clips are getting worse and more pathetic. Have you noticed?
I don't even know what the point of them is anymore.
They're getting to the point of absurdity.
Yeah,
I don't know why she's letting them all in without any foundation, without proper context. It's just
like the one yesterday where she said, if John did know about the text messages, which there's no evidence he did, I don't think he would react this way or do anything. So all of a sudden, we're now allowing her to speculate what John O'Keefe would do if if you accept the fact that he even knew about evidence that there's no evidence of, and this judge says, sure, come on, come on.
I was like pulling my hair out. I was like, what the fuck is am I in an alternate reality? Why is she allowing him to put into evidence Karen Reed's speculation about what a man would or wouldn't do of, like you said, an event we don't even know if even occurred?
Can you answer that? Does this woman ever, does she ever make an actual ruling on an objection? Can you answer that? I'm like, what? Wait, are you sustaining?
The problem with her rulings, first and foremost, and I think most lawyers would appreciate this, is be consistent. So I at least be predictable. So I know what's going to happen. So like, for example, today on his redirect, you know, he thinks it's a license to lead, which obviously you can't, but that's what he does. Right. And he goes to the doctor. Did you testify in the grand jury? Like, da 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 da. Objection. And she like, no, I'll allow it. And you're thinking like, huh? Recognizing that he gets away with this, he asks the next question, and she's like, sustained. But it's like the same thing.
Right.
And there's no method to the madness. It just feels like it's flipping a coin, or I don't know what I'm going to do, or don't care. But the idea that they were refreshing the recollection of a witness on redirect by literally reading her grand jury testimony out loud and say, did you say that? I mean, you know, your evidence professors in law school, their ears fall off if they heard.
Yeah, it's and I guess that's the kind of the way they operate in mass with no basis for objections. But it's like Allie's pretty good at being able to sniff out what a basis would be. He just objects to shit that I can't think of any basis, and my wife can't think of any basis. And it's just, it's so frustrating. And it's so weird to me because, you know, from the appellate court side of it, you know, that just gives the appellate court so much ammo in terms of they're allowed to apply any kind of basis that they think might apply. It's such a weird thing. I've never heard it. Look, judges in Illinois are always like, look, there are no speaking objections. You give your basis and you shut the hell up. I don't want to hear you blathering on after it, but I've never heard it where there's just no basis. It's so weird to me. Do they do that in New York?
No, well, we have a, you know, disparaging term for that, and I've used it online before. Brennan makes what I call ouch objections. You know, something's happening that he doesn't like, doesn't know why or have any reason. So your just reactions like objection, and you know, you hope maybe she'll just say sustained. Who knows?
Right.
Say, you know, privately, what's your basis? And I don't know, Judge. Just I think
they're ruining my case, Your Honor.
They're destroying my witness, and I don't like it.
It hurts, Your Honor. Ouch. I mean, that's what
I like it. I like it.
So, all right. What is your prediction for the defense in terms of? I mean, do you think they're going to call? Like, I think we all agree that they definitely need to call Proctor. What about Higgins? Do you think that they need to call Higgins?
I do.
Yes.
That destruction of the phone on the just like that alone is huge to me.
They've got it out there with Higgins. You know, you have that weird stuff at the waterfall where he's clearly pointing. Yeah. You have weird text messages that he's clearly getting strung along, and you know, it's pretty obvious that she's not serious with this guy. I mean, look at her, look at him. Give me a break. Right. But she's pissed off at John, whatever, and needy, and it happens. So you have a lot of, you know, interesting things, but what you don't have him burning his phone the day before he gets the preservation letter.
Is there someone else they could get that in with? Because if there is, I wouldn't call him.
I don't think so. You know, he's going to have to explain at this point, not that this offends us, because people getting lawyers is fine, but the reality is prosecution's arguing this guy's as clean gets. And within 3 days, he's saying, you want to talk to me? Come to my lawyer's office. And oh, by the way, I'm going to, you know, give you the messages you get from my other friend at the FBI. And then I'm going to toss my phone. I mean, to me, there's also something very important about him that has not come out. If you remember from the first trial, unlike all the other people in the house, he said somebody
else was there.
was 6'2" with brown hair. Yep. He says it wasn't John O'Keefe, but it matches John O'Keefe.
Yep.
The butt dials have not yet been explained in a good way. I think there's a lot of damage about that. And then, of course, you know, I got to know why you testified previously that you had to leave drunk out of your mind because there was no more Jameson and Ginger to go move cars at the precinct. And it turns out you were just kind of snooping around in one car. You might have moved one, but you didn't go there to move cars. You went there to, you know, get something, and you were on the phone for a substantial period of time. Again, to me, it's one of these things. He's beyond being rehabilitated. I mean, what can he do? He can't say nobody came in the house. He can't say I wasn't on the phone. He can't say I didn't have my lawyer with me. He can't say I didn't get rid of my phone. He can't say I wasn't pointing at John O'Keefe. I mean, maybe he could say I was, you know, pointing at the guy behind him, but give me a
come. Hey, come on, let's go.
I mean, I'm calling Proctor, I'm calling Higgins, and I'm calling Brian Albert. And maybe this is a little hyper aggressive, but I'm giving serious thought to calling Nicole Albert for the limited purpose of talk to me about the phone calls from Jen McCabe, because this makes no sense.
Yeah. And what about Matt? I mean, you almost, I like, there's a part of me that wants
which one sent the
Matt McCabe too, because
which one sent the one about the gift? Or would they get that in through Proctor?
Get that in through Proctor, because that's his wife and sister. Matt McCabe is interesting because he's the one who's like, oh, they're looking at the Asian house. They're in the wrong place. And I'll go take a picture. And my God, do you people have a lot of concern in your private chat about grieving for what happened to your close friend?
Yeah. Yeah. It's it'll be interesting, man. And it's like, we talked about it on the last live when you were on. It's like this part of me wants them to really trim the fat and keep it simple on the defense side of it, because this, like you said, man, I could open Black's Law Dictionary, and under the definition of reasonable doubt, it's this case. I mean, it just lives there. It's just so.
But I want to call some of these witnesses, because to me, Brennan has surrendered the moral authority and the righteous indignation in the case, which almost always belongs to the prosecutor. But he's yielded. He's given it up by hiding Proctor, hiding all these people. If the defense called even one of these people, they're in position to say, why are we doing this? Why aren't they?
And you're right. That's why they had to call the ME, because they're like, they can't risk someone that's clearly a very typical, strong state witness and necessary
witness for the state.
There's also another practical component to this. In Allen's very good opening, by the way, but he did go all in. He did go all in on Proctor, Higgins, and Brian Albert.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm not going to say you literally commit yourself, depending on if everything falls apart, but that's got to
commit yourself.
That's got to factor in. And to me,
especially if you want to point out all the things the prosecution didn't do.
Yep. Knowing that they're going to get the last word, the prosecution. So yeah, I would do that.
So people do want to know, what did you think about the asshole hot mic moment?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know who said it. If it was the judge, which I'm not saying it was, that's bad.
Right.
If it wasn't the judge and it was the prosecutor, that's bad, but less bad. Somebody said it. I don't know. I feel like I need more information. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I kind of went out on a limb and put it on Canoni yesterday in a tweet.
You know, I was saying it might not even have been asshole. It might have been ask her, ask him, ask.
I don't know that it was. I mean, to me, what was more worrisome was like a couple of weeks ago when Brennan was caught saying like, calm down. And that he was talking to Jen McCabe. That's more troubling to me than the judge muttering asshole under her breath, if that's even what happened.
Yeah, you mean like literally guiding a witness while they're testifying on the stand? Yeah, that's pretty scary shit.
Yeah. And he's while they're being cross-examined, nonetheless.
I mean, he was saying, calm down or stay calm.
Yep. Yeah. All right, I'm going to cut you, man, because you've been incredibly gracious with your time. We love having you over here, man. I love these conversations. So we got the perfect day for it.
Yeah,
there was just so much shit going on, and I think we probably got maybe 3 more days of the Commonwealth's case, and I think we're going to the defense's case in chief, and we'll see where it goes from there. I hope I can grab you again. Because I just love talking with you. You're so great. And I have a blast doing it. Is there, you got any promote yourself? Tell the people your Twitter account, because your Twitter's phenomenal, by the way. If you guys aren't following Mark on Twitter.
Last name Law, Bederow Law. Yeah, no, that's it. That's pretty much what I use.
Anything else? Any other final thoughts?
Final thoughts. No, I mean, I think this case, I said this a year and a half ago, and this is what started the people, the trolls, that I don't think it ever should have been indicted. And I don't think it ever should have been tried. Certainly don't think it should have been tried twice. And I feel like that's being reaffirmed each day that this goes on. Other than that, my only thoughts are big game 6 for us tomorrow night.
Big game. Right. I'm sorry about Tatum, man. That's dude, just devastating. But I mean, they showed up last night. So
yeah, I mean, look, obviously it changes the whole dynamic from favorite to just survive. But
yeah,
do I think they have it to win it this year? No, not in light of that. But I will tell you this: get me 2 more games against the Knicks, because I'm in New York. I have to listen to these people and just jam it down their throats and shut them up and make them go home again. You're a Bulls fan. You remember the
I know. I lived there, baby.
And you guys always used to be like the big brother banging on Ewing's head.
Yeah.
That's how we kind of feel about the Knicks. So just get me 2 more wins and the rest is house money.
Yeah. I mean, you got that championship pedigree going for you. I mean, like you got that kind of, you got that vibe, so it's like, and that can carry you, because the Knicks have really sucked for a long time. So this is like the first time they've been relevant.
Yeah.
For as long as I can remember, probably back in the Jordan era. So, all right, Mark, you're awesome, man. Thank you so much for hanging with us for a couple hours. We really, really appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, brother.
All right, let's take some questions if you guys feel so inclined. Oh, that was just a super sticker. Thank you, Brenda Crowley. And I know that we did spiritual awakeners question. I don't know. Do you guys feel like all your questions have been answered? You got any questions or comments you want to throw at us? Let's hear it. Let's see it. What about Alessi correcting Bev on rule 1.15? Is that from, are we talking about? No, I think that was about when she said that they violated the rules, and it was fees that really dealt with how a lawyer should handle client fees. So, I mean, he did it very
smoked her.
Yeah, he did it very gently. He did it very gently.
Well, it wasn't that gentle. He's like, yeah, but here's the problem, that rule doesn't apply to us in this situation at all. It wasn't that gentle. I thought, I mean, here's the thing about Bob Alessi. Nobody's like pulling the wool over that dude's eyes ever. Like, I mean, that guy knows every piece of evidence forward and backward, and he understands all the science behind it. No one's ever getting over on Bob Alessi. I mean, if Hank hasn't figured that out yet, like the whole thing with the mirrored image on the bumper was mind blowing. I mean, this guy has parsed every single stitch of evidence that he is going to be handling in this case, and nobody's going to be able to fuck with him. Like, and if Brennan doesn't realize that by now, then he's a bigger moron than I thought. I mean, like he's unbelievable. He's unbelievable. All right. So we got a huge, all right. So Mark's amazing. We thank you. If you guys are new to the channel, think about giving us a sub. We'd love to have you over here. We think we put some pretty good content out there. Allie and I both know a few things about a few things. We think we can occasionally be funny as well. So, but make sure you like, share, subscribe. When you get out of here, get us all in the algorithm, do all that good shit. Thank you for all the gifted memberships tonight. We love when family grows.
Meg healing vibes and healing hugs.
Yes, big time. Absolutely. And I think she's back in play now. So, but family hugs to all the new fam. We love having you guys over here. And we will be back tomorrow once again, bright and early, 7:45 Central, 8:45 Eastern, for a nice Friday day in court in Karen Reed 2.0. Thank you guys so much. Thank you to our mods who worked so very, very hard today, and I'm sure who did another amazing job in chat tonight with this many people. You guys are the best in the business. We have the best chat in the land for a reason. and it's y'all. We thank you so much. And to all of you guys who are here day in, day out with us, and for those of you that are new, thank you guys, because without you, I'm just an old man
sitting around talking to his wife.